here is Donald Trump back in 2020 in the campaign bringing up this very issue. He gets it a little wrong. I think he says 183. He means 83,000, but he's talking about all the money that Hunter and Devin were getting. Watch this. I want your reaction.
It's an open discussion, please.
It's a fact.
Well, you have raised an issue. Let the vice president answer.
Discredited.
Did Burisma pay him $183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr. President,
my son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
Mr. President, let him answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who? The media?
By everybody. Well, by the media, by our allies, by the World Bank.
In other words, totally discredited, right? I mean, now it's not been so discredited. It's actually all come out. We saw, of course, his former business partner, Hunter Biden's former business partner, admit in that testimony that this is what they were getting. He admitted that, by the way, Dad would call in some 20 times to, say, hey, how you doing? And, it might be at a dinner. What's that about?
I mean, think about it. I mean, it's, obviously it's not just the dad. Like, this is the vice president. Like, so presumably the vice presidents have something to do. The fact that, I mean, they should be, kind of maybe busy. But the fact that he's calling in 20 times, right? He's actually meeting with these shady executives in person at dinner. And we know that. The thing is, there's such a convergence of evidence now that it's harder and harder for them to hide from it. We have the Biden laptop, or the Hunter laptop, which was dismissed as, Russian disinformation. Of course, it's now conclusive, by everyone that it was, genuine. The materials in there, they capture emails from Burisma to Hunter, urging Hunter to alleviate pressure on them from Ukrainian officials and to make use of his influence, which is basically limited to the fact that he's the son of Joe Biden. We have the testimony of the Burisma partner under oath, as well as subsequent interviews where he could be at risk of, defamation or whatever. And Archer does choose his words rather carefully, it seems to me.
Yes,
you also have a lot of sort of forensic financial investigations going on that are carefully tracking how the money was wired and distributed in very sort of shady ways using, various shell companies and things like that, right? So you have all of this evidence that paints the same picture, and that is strength for both areas of corruption. That there was an influence peddling scheme which enriched the Bidens, and that Joe, fired the prosecutor in order to conceal that story.
It's wild. So we are live on YouTube right now. We are live on Facebook, and this is also on Apple Podcasts. Make sure, if you're watching, that you subscribe and that you subscribe to all the platforms if you would. I'm getting a lot of viewer questions in or comments, and one of the viewers is saying, and perhaps that you could explain this, Professor. We're speaking with Professor Max Abrams from Northeastern University, who's been looking into the money trail there with the Biden family. He said, one of the things I don't understand is that, the Biden family seem to be receiving millions of dollars from Burisma. Is that an allegation, or do we have any hard evidence of that? Now, I'm familiar with the allegation, right? The FBI apparently having some source reporting some $5 million, but you're talking about $11 million potentially. Is that sort of firmly out there as opposed to Hunter just getting the $83,000 as part of his salary as a board member? Do you have any knowledge of that, sir?
That's a really good question. I might not be the best person to answer it, but it does seem, we do know for a fact that Burisma was paying Hunter Biden quite a lot of money. And I feel confident in saying that it's in the millions. And we also have every reason to believe, especially because of the Archer testimony that the only reason why Hunter was being paid the money was because of his relationship with Joe Biden as the son. That was the only reason. There was no professional basis for being supplied all of this money by Burisma. In fact, the founder of Burisma said that Hunter Biden was stupider than his dog.
Yeah, that came out in the testimony as well. So clearly they weren't too impressed with the guy. There was a reason.
I'm not, yeah,
he was on
I
the
don't know
payroll.
what the exact figures are, but
see, that's what we
they're
got to know,
in
right,
the
Professor?
millions.
I mean, I think this is part of the point of your editorial. Everybody was so quick. I mean, my goodness, you tune into Rachel Maddow there on MSNBC, and they held her up like she was president of Harvard University or something. She was this like great academic scholar that was unraveling this whole mystery, and I'm like, the whole thing is a bunch of junk. I mean, you ought to be able to tell that just by frankly reading the darn report, because it reads like opposition research. And the fact that our FBI wasn't willing to actually follow that through and actually get real answers, but instead immediately went to wiretapping phones, that's bizarre to me. And then when they've got something that actually does kind of look real, and you got financial records, and you get somebody working for somebody, and then aid getting redirected, etc., why wouldn't you follow that trail through? That's a money trail worth investigating.
The other thing is it's particularly timely because the U.S. is leading the largest, war in some ways since World War II in Ukraine against Russia. So what I'm interested especially in whether there's any relationship between Biden's corruption in Ukraine and whether there could be any so-called compromise over him, and the fact
and does that have anything to do with why we're spending
has
so much money?
led this NATO war against Russia in Ukraine. Now,
okay, now you're saying the real unthinkable here. Like you're
no. Yeah.
But it's a logical question, right? I mean, we're spending all this money, and I've been saying this, like, adjusted for inflation, you're looking at as much money, if not more by now, than we spent in Afghanistan. Now, fortunately, we don't have our own soldiers over there like we did in Afghanistan, but it's a lot of money. Well, simultaneously, we're well aware of the corruption that was going on over there. In fact, you had to have some of the people that were, running the army, etc. They wound up getting forced out by us because there was this alleged corruption, or I shouldn't even say alleged. In their case, they were like siphoning off money that we were sending. So you got to ask that, right? Like, I mean, how can you not?
I want to be a little bit clearer about what I'm actually saying. I'm not saying that, the likely existence of this compromise is why Biden has been such a, fierce ally for Ukraine. I think that even without any of this corruption, that he might have the exact same position towards Ukraine. However, I'm not sure that Joe Biden is in the position, if he wanted to really distance himself from Ukraine. I don't think Joe Biden could say, you know what, you guys are in a stalemate. The counteroffensive hasn't really been that successful. All this saber rattling, has led to more conflict with Russia than we expected. There are, nuclear threats. And the American public increasingly is turning against it. So now America, under my administration, wants to pull back from supporting you in Ukraine. I'm not sure Joe Biden is in the position to really discipline Ukraine and control Ukraine and to vastly change U.S. policy to Ukraine, because he does, I believe, need to worry about revelations that go all the way back to, his vice presidency.
Hey everyone, Trish Regan here. If you enjoyed that clip, please do me the favor of subscribing to the channel. Just hit that little subscribe button right over there. Did I do that right? Not quite, but you know where it is. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so that you get the alerts, and I'll see you back on the show.